Welcome to In a World with Real Media. I'm your host, Brad Burrow. In this podcast, we'll dive into the lives of the most successful people in business. We'll learn how they overcame adversity, took advantage of opportunities, and learned from their experiences. Learn from our experts, get inspired, then go live your story. It's In a World with Real Media. Hello and welcome to the In a World with Real Media podcast. I'm Brad Burrow, and today we have Kelli Campbell-Goodnow with us. She is the Executive Director of Valor Partners Foundations. Kelli, we met at an Accelerant event, and I'm trying to remember that morning. Those things are there's so much going on. It's like when you get married, you don't remember half the stuff that happened that day. Right. But I was excited that you wanted to be on the podcast because we support veterans initiatives, and we owe such a big debt to the veterans. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to have you here. You're also a Gold Star spouse. That's right. So I'd love to kind of just give me a little bit of background. You're from Kansas City, is that correct?
Not originally. Okay. No, I've been here almost 10 years now. So I grew up in Texas. I am an Aggie. I went to Texas A&M, and I met my husband, Sean, there back in about when you were starting this. I was graduating high school and going to college in 97. So I met Sean at A&M, and he commissioned with the Marine Corps when we both graduated, and we were off on that adventure. Yeah. Lived all over the United States. So you moved a lot? For 15 years. We were Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, and then Hawaii.
What was that like? That
amazing.
I hate moving, by the way.
Yeah.
You're probably really good at it.
We're good. Yeah, I wouldn't say I love it, but I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I've done it a lot. Yeah. We loved it. We loved that life because we found the Marine Corps is very small. And so even though you move around a lot, no matter where you go, you know somebody, or you know somebody who knows somebody. And so we always had a great recommendation of a church to try and friends to meet. And the community just when you don't have time, you dig in really, really deep, really fast. And so we always just had such amazing community.
Because you knew you were only going to be there for a short amount of time. So let's get plugged in now.
Yeah. And so and it was amazing to see after 15 years when I lost Sean in a helicopter accident. And that's what brought me here. But just to see that community come back to us from literally around the world, to have friends get on planes in Japan and, all over to come and be with us. It was pretty incredible.
Now, were you in Kansas City when that happened?
We were in Hawaii.
Okay.
So in 2014, we were stationed in Hawaii. Our kids were 11, 8, 6, and 2 when we got there. And then it was a nighttime training accident, a training flight, and Sean was one of 4 pilots on 2 helicopters and 12 Marines total. And they collided in the middle of the night out over the ocean. And so horribly tragic. And we lost 12 good men that night. And obviously, set my family on a whole new trajectory. Yeah.
What, I don't know how deep you'd like to get into that, but how do you get through something like that? I mean, you probably get asked that all the time, but that's a shocking thing to happen.
Yeah, and how do you get through? God, number one. I would not be here without all that God has done for us and protected us and provided, and that's a situation. I think people look at Gold Star spouse, anybody who's gone through that a lot, and say, "Oh, you're so strong. I could never do that."
Yeah.
And we kind of go, well, you would have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would. You would
didn't
have
a
to.
Choice, did you?
And thank God that I had, my faith and hope, because I don't know how I would have gotten through it otherwise, because I don't have the strength, So yeah. Here I am. You've
had to help your kids probably understand what happened as well. Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah. That's I'm probably the hardest part. I remember that being the worst part. They were so little.
Yeah.
And they're so little. At the time, they really can't understand. They can't.
Yeah.
And so when you lose your dad at that young, it's a lifelong process. And so now today, I can say they're thriving. They're doing so great. My oldest is now 21, and then 18, 16, and 11, almost 12. So my youngest is the age that my oldest was when we lost Sean. And that's been a weird year to kind of almost, and they're like, he's a mini me of his big brother. So it's just been amazing to kind of see that age again.
Yeah.
But they're doing amazing. But it's been a roller coaster of 10 years,
imagine.
and it'll always be. But again, we've seen so much goodness and, beauty from ashes for 10 years.
Yeah. Talk about how the military family came in and supported you. You mentioned that briefly, but
yeah,
I mean, that had to be a key.
It was incredible, really incredible. I mean, from the first moment. I mean, and especially when it's something so public and tragic, and the whole island of Oahu was out on the beach searching. Every branch of the military and police and fire were out there. And so everybody really, gathered around there. In the beginning, there was a week-long search, which then became a several months-long salvage operation. And during that time, it was just a constant stream of people I knew and people I didn't know, just showing up to help. And a lot of times, people ask me now what maybe they have a friend or family member going through something, and they say, "What can I do? What should I do?"
Yeah.
And I just say, "Show up." You might not be able to do anything. I'm going to try not to cry all the way through this.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's not something you can fix.
Yeah.
But you can show up, and you can just sit in it with them. And there's
just
definitely
by being there,
practical
that meant
things.
something to
yeah, it really did. And I don't know if that's just me, but just to know people were just there. And there were a lot of, and then I do say, don't ask what you can do. Just do something. If you feel an urge to maybe go do their laundry or just deliver some groceries, or, don't ask. Go watch their kids. Don't ask. Just show up and say, "Hey, I'm going to give you an hour while I take your kids outside for a bit." Or, and that means the most, because when you're in the midst of total, just trauma, chaos, and mystery. I mean, just nothing makes sense in that moment. You can't make decisions. I couldn't make decisions. And so to have so many people, my whole family flew out, and they were just there, and they just did whatever needed doing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great advice. I mean, you of all people can talk to that better than anybody. So I've already got a bunch of extra questions that are popping into my mind. How did you end up in Kansas City?
So, like I said, grew up in Texas, but my parents had moved here around 2006, I think. And so they'd been here about 10 years already. They had moved up with their work. And so we had visited, and, we knew the area, but it wasn't necessarily home. But my parents were home. And it was interesting, actually. Maybe a few months before the crash, we had a conversation, which came about because we were always getting tsunami warnings when we lived in Hawaii. And so every week or so you get a tsunami warning. And at some point we just kind of had an offhand conversation, like, what would we do if our house was wiped out, if we had to leave and evacuate? And it was just kind of a no-brainer. Well, we'd go to Kansas City. We'd stay with mom and dad. We'd be fine. And then we'd figure it out. And it was such a, kind of casual conversation. But it came back to me, and I just realized that's what I need to do. Because in that moment, I could have stayed on the island for a while. I didn't want to leave. Our friends were there, and but I knew we wouldn't stay forever. And so it was just, what do you do? And so we ended up moving pretty quickly here. Moved in with my parents. They had plenty of space, and we just sort of rode out the storm from here in a safe place. And it worked out great, and now we're still here because Kansas City turned out to be an amazing place to be.
Yeah,
So.
That's awesome. So I want to go down a little bit of a faith track with you. You mentioned God was with you. Do you look back, and we'll talk about, the things that are happening with Valor, but do you look back and look at that situation and say, God was preparing me to help other people?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I remember just feeling so overwhelmed with help and support, and, like I said, things I didn't ask for, didn't know to ask for, and I wanted to say thank you. I remember specifically praying, God, I don't know how to say thank you. And I think it worried me. Like, I don't want anyone to feel like I don't appreciate this. Every little thing, a random Facebook message I would get, or a text, or a gift in the mail, like just everything meant so much. And I wanted to not forget that feeling. And so I remember just thinking, I want to be able to say thank you. And it wasn't very long after that I was asked to speak on behalf of recipients of scholarships, a charity that had helped my family. And my first reaction was, no way, absolutely not. I'm not a speaker.
That would be tough.
No, I mean, number one, I weaseled my way out of public speaking all through college. I managed to do it, and it was just something I never wanted to do. And then number two, especially not about this.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to get up and cry in front of people. I don't want to do that. And so, but at some point I just realized, okay, they're giving me a chance to say thank you. So it might be awful, but I'll do it. I'll say thank you. And it was awful. It was terrible.
Do you remember the first
feeling?
I
do. Oh, vividly. And my son was there, and we actually drove out to Wichita, and we spoke at this little event. And I just remember thinking, what in the world am I doing? And I did cry in front of people, and I did, just sort of ramble through my story, but I said thank you. And that, it meant so much. It meant so much to them.
For you to be able to say that?
Very. And I didn't expect that. I didn't expect just saying the words out loud and telling my story out loud to be that healing. But then as I continued, just more and more healing and more processing happened. And I actually have been a part of a ministry to widows. And and there, the first thing we do when we have new young widows gather, is have them tell their story out loud. And some have never said certain words out loud. And you don't realize how healing it is to have to just share your story, get it out. And it's like, it releases something. And so I realized through that ministry, well, that's what I had done without knowing it. I had been allowed to heal. And so I kept doing that for years, and it led me to where I am today. But, it's been really rewarding. Yeah.
I think that God has such a unique way of taking pain and taking things that we've gone through and using it to help other people.
Yeah.
Just a little point of transparency here. My wife and I became Christians in 99 through losing a child. And we look on that, I mean, it was incredibly tough.
Yeah.
But and he was stillborn. He's full-term stillborn child. But we look at that as he had a purpose, and he changed the direction of our family, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
And so we always looked at that as God was going to use us to help other people that have gone through those situations. And so I see that with you too. I mean, incredibly painful, tough thing to go through, but you are using that in such a powerful way to help other people. That's amazing.
Nothing is wasted.
Yeah.
I think about, your son. And a lot of times, people will say, well, God has a plan. And that's something I try to never say to someone in the midst of tragedy. Because that's not part of his plan. Death and dying is not part of his plan. Life. But he uses that. He brings good from that.
Yeah.
And he can do that for anybody. And I just think that's beautiful. And so, I can't explain it, and we can't fix it, and we can't change it, but we can know that we know the end of the story.
Yes.
So
a lot of hope in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
I feel the same way. It's like we're going to see him.
Yeah.
That reuniting, I've thought about that moment a lot. It's like, that's going to be an amazing moment.
Yes.
Yes. And that's, you can't even imagine how great that's going to be.
Yeah. My husband now, I remarried in 2020, and he lost a daughter at birth,
really?
in the womb as well. And so, we think about that all the time, that she's up there with Sean.
Yeah. Yeah. They're hanging out together.
Yeah.
They're doing great things. Yeah. It's awesome. That's going to be neat. So I don't want to go into my story that much, but anyway, I just thought about that. We talked about how you came through in 2018. So that happened in 2016. In 2018, you get involved with Folds of Honor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was, like I said, the request. I was like, no way, I will.
Did they reach out to you and say, hey, we'd love you to be a part of what we're doing?
It was a really neat how it happened. very soon after getting here to Kansas City, I had been homeschooling my kids,
Really?
all through. And so
even in Hawaii?
in Hawaii, yeah,
Really?
we had chosen to homeschool just because of the moving around. And, I was going to stay at home and give them something consistent. The aviation world is anything but consistent and through deployments and moves and all that. And it really was a great choice for our family. But we got here, and I'm in my parents' basement, and all our stuff is in storage. And the accident happened the day we were supposed to go back to our little co-op. We had a weekly group we met with, and it was just after Christmas break. And so the kids hadn't been in school since November, and they're young. They're all in elementary school, but I started to kind of have this panic moment about March. And that's when a good friend of mine found a school here in Kansas City that was the same, classical Christian model and curriculum we'd been using. And then knowing that's expensive, she found Folds of Honor and said, I think this could help you. And so kind of at the same time, those two things were handed to me. And the kids started school, and I applied for these scholarships and then found out they could stay. Well, then through the school, I met a friend who invited us out to a 5K run one day. This was kind of the next fall, so a few months later. And she said, it's for a military charity or something, I think. She didn't really know. She said, oh, I think it's called Folds of Honor. And I just went, wait, that's why I know you. Those scholarships are the reason we're friends. And so we just showed up at this little 5K, and turns out there was a local volunteer board and people involved. And so I was, again, able to say thank you to someone in person. And I just didn't know they were here. And it meant a lot to them, to meet us and know who they had helped. And so that just kind of took off from there, got more involved, and then that was when they asked me to speak, and I said, absolutely not.
So you started out as a board member, right? So I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah,
so,
I started as a board member, volunteer, and then part-time, kind of just working for the local chapter, and it just snowballed. And as a speaker, and so I traveled around the country to
So by then you're getting used to speaking a lot more, probably.
Right. And so it was just like a snowball. It just kept getting bigger and more, and healing and meeting people, and it connected me back to the military community. I'd had to leave, and gave me a chance to just give back, and so
that probably felt good.
It really did.
Yeah,
it did, and I realize now what a blessing it was to be able to meet other Gold Star families through that, and we just have had so many opportunities because of that. Because
do you see God's hand in
completely
kind of getting you that 5K and
all of it? Yeah, there's no accident there. Because I just, for the last 10 years, I feel like every step I've taken has just kind of been like, oh, this is in front of me. Okay, I'll do that next. It's just been, when everything is lost, our whole future and all our plans were gone.
Yeah,
I just kind of surrendered and said, I don't know what to do or where to go or where to live. The Marine Corps has always told us what to do, And so I just kind of said, okay, Lord, I don't know what to do or how to be a mom now or anything, but I'll just do the next thing. And he just kept giving me the next thing and the next thing. And it's led to the
one
thing I'm
step
doing
at
now.
a time, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you were the development director, and then corporate impact officer. I wasn't sure what that meant, but
it's a big title for for something I was making up as I go. But so I ended up working directly for the national office, the headquarters, which is in Oklahoma. But I was remote here, and so it just means I would travel nationally and fundraising.
Yeah.
So whether I was speaking at an event or meeting with corporate donors. And it's crazy to think too. I was a Parks and Rec major and outdoor ed back at A&M 30 years ago. So I never saw myself in a role like that, but I just learned as I went and loved it. I loved it because of the people. I loved that part. So.
By the way, I saw that you were into photography.
Are
you still doing that?
I am determined to find my way back when I have time for hobbies again. That's something I've kind of lost over the years and want to regain. My son is now a communications major, and using camera. He would love this room. He's learning
bring
cameras.
Him, we'll show him around.
And so it's something I see him doing now, and it's fun.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that your profile picture is very well shot, like whoever did your profile picture.
Well, that's Brian Gailey. I'll put a plug in for him. He's on LinkedIn, does amazing work. And he is the father of a Marine, and so he actually...
Is that right?
And was just really generous in helping me get those, and it was good to meet him. Yeah,
that's awesome. So you get that creative background a little bit. That probably serves you well in some of the things you're doing.
I think so, because when you're working for a small nonprofit with few resources, you have to do it all yourself, and so it's just enough to be dangerous, though. It's just enough to get me down a lot of rabbit trails, because I can't put something together quickly, but I enjoy it, our new website, and trying to figure out social media and telling stories. I like that part.
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. It's like changing by the minute. So,
exactly. Yeah.
Even we're working. I'm doing another podcast with a gentleman that owns a digital marketing company, and that's all we talk about on the podcast. It's like, what are people doing now?
My dinosaur of a camera. I had this really nice camera 10 years ago. Yeah. And when I think about doing photography again, I'm like, well, my iPhone is a better camera now. So I wouldn't even know where to begin. So.
Yeah. Technology's changed a lot. It's amazing and challenging.
It goes too fast sometimes.
So let's switch gears to Valor, Valor Partners. Tell me, what is Valor Partners? There are some things I wrote down, but just give me your kind of elevator speech
in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Well, I came on board 2 years ago as their first paid employee as executive director, and so
it was already
going. So since 2012, and they had been called the Heart of America Patriot Foundation, based here in Kansas City. It's a mouthful, and and that was one thing I realized when I came on board. The first thing I started to learn was nobody can remember or say it, and we're doing really good work, but our strongest supporters can't say our name.
Yeah.
And so we started talking about potentially, and also the program had kind of changed. So for the first 10 years, it was basically an annual golf tournament in Overland Park, and they would raise money and then give it out to various veteran charities in the area. So 5 or 6 different organizations would benefit. And then they'd give away all their money and then hit reset, And so after about 10 years, they identified a particular need and that's what we're doing now. And so they kind of made that pivot to one program that we were running in partnership with colleges. And so just through those changes, I came in and said it might be time to do a little rebranding here. And the final
your
confirmation,
creative side coming out.
Probably. But then the final confirmation, I was invited to beat the drum at a Chiefs game on
New
Year's Eve a few years ago.
Yeah.
And so I'm up there, and I'm excited because they're going to say our name and get the word out. And they said my name, and then they said American Heart Association.
Oh, no.
And it was like, if you watch the video, there's this moment of like stunned, what? And then I just had to beat the drum, I just had to go on. And it's such a short, quick thing, but it was like, oh, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
So, and then they actually corrected it online, but used yet another name that was still wrong. And so that was it. We laugh now because I feel like it was just the confirmation we needed that we're doing the right thing. We're doing the right thing. We need a name that people can remember. And we have this really unique program that was just starting to take off. And so it's been a good change.
What was that like, doing the beating the drum thing? We do a lot of work with the Chiefs and the Royals and stuff.
Yeah.
But that looks like a fun deal.
It's fun up there. It's freezing up there on that deck.
The wind's blowing
it
through,
was like
probably.
0 degrees. And I've been up there a few times for check presentations and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's a fun atmosphere, and it's just, you just kind of stand there and then you wait for them to tell you to wave and smile and do whatever you're supposed to do. It's fun.
Yeah. So tell me about the program. What's the main program now?
Yeah.
What is it? Kind of what do you do?
Yeah. So like I said, Heart of America was serving various charities, and Al Gorthy, our current board president, as he was taking over as president, he looked around and he wanted to consolidate what they were doing and meet an unmet need. He just wanted to know they were really making an impact. And they had some partnerships with colleges locally to set up emergency funds or scholarship funds for veterans. So he went back to some of those relationships and just started asking questions. What do families need? What are they not getting?
Now, are these Gold Star families then?
These are all, well, some, but also just veteran families, disabled veteran families.
Okay.
And that was where he started to feel the pull, the disabled veteran and their children and their spouses. What are we doing for them? And that's when he learned that the VA benefits for education for those families are different than for Gold Star families. And then this was something when I learned it hurts to see. My children have we're so blessed with college support. I will not have to worry about paying for their school, and it's allowed them opportunities, to go wherever they want.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
The way it should be.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just so grateful for that. And then I see in the same boat, the spouse or child of the 100% disabled veteran. They get a different benefit from the VA, Dependents Education Assistance, and it's light years different from the post 9/11 GI Bill Fry scholarship that Gold Star families get. It's helpful. It gets them in the door, but it's not enough. And so all too often those families, those children or those spouses are the ones not finishing because they find out it's not enough. And they just get this little monthly stipend, and it helps you pay your rent or your tuition or your groceries, but it doesn't cover the full cost of education like post 9/11 does. Yeah. And so that he saw that disparity, and that was what the school started telling us. Any military and veterans office or financial aid office you talk to, and you say who's the military affiliated student that needs the most help, they're going to tell you it's the Chapter 35 student. Chapter 35 is the other name for Dependents Education Assistance, or DEA. And that's kind of how they're identified. They all say it's our Chapter 35s. They need help, and they're the ones coming in and looking for it.
Yeah.
But nobody was doing it. And there are scholarships out there that apply, but that's where our program is different, in that so for example, my son's in college, my daughter's on her way into college, and so I kind of have a second part-time job, I feel like right now, helping them manage their finances and their scholarship applications. And I will not complain, because at the end of the day, it's such a blessing to know they're okay. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. We have to fill out applications, and we have to write essay. I'm having them write essays. I give them Google Docs, and I'm like, just answer all these questions for me, please. And we have to have paperwork submitted and answer. There's a lot. And then you have to respond and accept. And then there's check-ins. And then you have to make sure that organization is sending the check to the school and it's going to the right place. And, again, not to complain. It's a lot. Yeah. And so I think about, if my kids didn't have me helping them, what would happen? Would they be able to do this? And maybe some of it they would, but a lot of it they would miss out on. A lot of it. And so I think about those families that the kids or the spouse who's also a caregiver for her disabled husband, or the child of, just all kinds of situations where they don't have that same support. They don't know where to go for help. They don't know what to ask for or what's available. And so they're not getting it. They're not getting the help that's there for them. And so my long-winded answer here, to get back to how we're different, we partner with the school to put that money in place for that specific student. We grant the school funding. The school matches it dollar for dollar. So now everyone's invested. Everyone knows who this is and why we're helping them and what we need to do. And we work together to support the highest need students on their list of Chapter 35s. And that has looked like, at one school has told us, they had 10 or 15 scholarship recipients this last year. And I talked to the woman in charge, and she said, we pulled the list and we looked at who was going to be dropped from their schedule that semester because they couldn't pay the bill. They hadn't paid. They had an outstanding balance, and they were at risk of dropping out of school. And they just paid their bills. And those students just got word that you just got this help and you get to stay, and it kept them in school. And now they're graduating. And, you hear stories like that.
Changing
and you just
a
think
life right there.
They wouldn't have stayed in. And then what happens? Then what's the trajectory of their life? And so we are literally changing, their path. We're helping them, these families who have through service and sacrifice, have been kind of forced onto a new path, forced to find a new way forward. And I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And so to have someone just come in, like I said, just to show up and say, hey, I see you. I see that need and I'm going to meet it. And you keep going,
Yeah.
you know, it's amazing. I'm getting emotional because that's the part of my job I love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever get to follow up with the kids that are getting help like that?
I get, favorite part of my job.
That's got to be an amazing
meeting. Yeah. Excuse me. Because there's days when you just get bogged down in the admin of it and I don't do well sitting still at my desk. But I have been able to visit some of our schools and sit down in some of our military and veteran centers and meet students and just amazing people and such a unique, I asked some people recently, when you think about what we do, when I tell you our mission, who do you picture? And they all said 18-year-old kid going to college.
Yeah.
And then I told them the stories about the 45-year-old spouse raising 4 kids and caring for her disabled husband and going back to school to get a master's degree because she needs to get that better job to support her family. I told them about a woman I met who also caring for her husband who can't work anymore. He's an amputee and dealing with seizures and all kinds of effects of TBI. She also has special needs kids because they were born with genetic issues related to toxic exposure. And, you just see all these things happening as a result of service. It's the whole family. The whole family has made sacrifices. And so, but then you have these students who are moms and wives and kids who have been through all that, but they are trying to do something to push their family forward. They haven't given up. They're not just looking for handouts. And in fact, they're not asking because they don't know to ask. And so, so everyone I get to meet, and we recently got some surveys back with just story after story of, I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to drop out. This has helped so much because now I don't have to work 2 jobs. And to hear that, we know we're making a difference. It keeps me going.
Yeah,
for sure.
Is that one of the challenges you have is because you have, it sounds like a lot of those types of stories, is getting those stories out to people. Because I feel like, those are the things that move us to action.
Yes.
We get asked a lot to do videos for like my wife is the CFO of Kansas City Christian School, and they have an auction.
My children, your wife is Tracy.
Tracy Burrow. Yes. You know
my
kids
wife? Go to Kansas City Christian, and Tracy handles our scholarships every year. I'm emailing with her about.
Oh my gosh!
How did I not put
That's
this
amazing.
together? Oh my gosh! Oh, this is hilarious.
That is crazy.
I cannot believe it didn't even occur to me. Wow, we have a whole other conversation to have.
Yeah. Well,
that is funny. So Tracy knows all about the scholarships and the process my kids go through right now.
She kind of leads that part for Kansas City Christian.
Oh my gosh!
Our kids have been there since. Well, my youngest just graduated. He goes by Puppy.
My son graduated with Puppy.
Did he really?
Tristan Campbell. He only went to KCC for 1 year, his senior year, and he graduated
I cannot
with Puppy.
believe we haven't met.
This is amazing.
Well, he's at
we have to have cross paths at events and graduations and all the things.
That's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Well, that'll be an interesting part of the podcast.
Okay. We'll have a whole other podcast there.
Yeah.
Funny connection.
So where I was going to go is like, well, you've been to the auction.
That's right.
Right. So the thing is that I get asked to do the video for the auction almost every year, and we're happy to do it. But the thing is, the first year that I did the auction video, and this was before we started going to school there, the chairman at the time said, "Hey, we need to really emotionally impact people," and so I'm like, okay. Well, it was the stories, people telling how their kids' lives have been changed. Our kids' lives were changed at that school. I mean, it's an amazing school, but that's the thing that impacts. And I think about, I mean, if you want to get people to actually donate and get involved, and you got to touch them emotionally.
Right.
And you have some incredible stories that people are like, I need to support this. I want to help.
Yeah.
And so that, I think from a marketing standpoint, not that we needed to go down that trail, but golly, you you have this gold mine of
We
impact.
do. And let me tell you, that is the biggest struggle, I think, for any nonprofit, because you're under such scrutiny for spending, right?
Yeah.
Everything has to go to program. And I agree.
Yeah.
We want every dollar. And that's why we created a program where our money is matched. I mean, we want to multiply.
Yeah.
And yet, you can't do good work without good people and without the resources. And so, we have to balance, how do we pay for a marketing contract? We went through a whole rebrand, and that was a big, big investment and a scary investment.
Yes.
But we're starting to see it pay off. And then the payoff is slow. And, if you're a startup for-profit company, you're expected to go into the red and, do everything you can to, and then, you spend to make money. If you're a nonprofit, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And so you've got to get people to catch the vision, and invest with you from the start and make this happen. And that's what we've seen. It's slow going, but yeah, it's, I could spout off the numbers of students and the need and the amounts of this, I could give you numbers all day, but you're not going to remember that. You're going to remember the story of the wife raising her kids and going back to school to help other families like hers.
That's exactly right. And, and as the younger, that's how the younger generation actually, they don't read.
No. Yeah. And they need a quick story, right?
Yeah. And so you've got to kind of meet them where they are. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of, but the impact of, I mean, what's really cool about what you're doing is just seeing somebody's life change.
Yeah.
You know, that's really cool.
True. It's true. And I think we're not changing their life. They're changing their life. They're taking the steps, and they're pressing forward, and they're battling all kinds of things with resilience and just incredible courage. And we just get to help them. We get to say, I see you and I'm grateful for you. And that's part of our vision, is uniting grateful Americans. Yeah. To support our military, and because that's something everybody can get behind. I think I saw a survey, 9 out of 10 Americans are think highly of the military family, right?
Yes.
It's like the most respected institution in America. Everybody, no matter your politics, that doesn't matter, because they have all signed up to volunteer, to serve. Yeah. No matter who's in leadership, that doesn't matter. It's what they do, and then the whole family serves alongside, and that's something we should be grateful for.
Yeah, it's not just the person in the military; it is the whole family, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the moving that you did, and that's an incredible sacrifice.
Yeah, and I'm grateful and I'm proud to have done it. I don't regret anything, and I think most military families would tell you that. Yes, it's hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So. I wrote down the vision. It says to honor sacrifices of veterans and families. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the vision. That's really cool. Yeah. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but But the thing I wrote down about the mission, uniting, gratitude, hope, and opportunity. Right. Those are. But gratitude I underlined, and you've really hit on the gratitude side of it. I mean, that's really important when it comes to the mission. Yeah. And I can hear that in you is just thanking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's putting action behind the words. I mean, we all say when you see someone, say thank you for your service. But we can back that up. There are things we can do, and you don't have to be super wealthy and write a big check. You can just volunteer, or you can, provide services, whatever it is. There are ways we can show up. Yeah. To be thankful. Yeah.
So, moving forward, what are the big challenges? I mean, I also have goals, but what are the big challenges that you have right now?
Fundraising, obviously. Just, as I said, our schools match every dollar we give them. And we have schools on a waiting list that want to partner with us. This program in the collegiate world has taken off.
So is it like in the area type schools all over the country?
All over the country. So we started here locally with 5 schools that said yes to this kind of bold ask. Hey, match our money, and we're not going to pay you any fees. And, we're going to all be all in. And 5 schools said yes the first year, and 12 the next year. And on the map, you see it expand. And now we are, as of June, it'll be official. We'll be in 15 states, 41 partners One of those partners is the Kansas Independent Colleges Association. So they umbrella 21 small schools.
Okay.
And so we know we have students from 3 of those schools this coming year. And so it's, any school you can think of in the metro area, we're probably a partner with, but also Georgia Southern and Hawaii Pacific and Chapman University in California. I mean, we are coast to coast. So that's huge to have become this national nonprofit with that kind of presence on campuses, and yet still really no one knows who we are.
Yeah.
And so that's the challenge now, is raising the funds to meet that sudden demand we have, because it's taken off. And I have schools like Texas Tech and some in Florida and Maryland. We have schools that have said, we have money to match, we'll do this, we want to help this student, but we can't sign them and add them to our list yet until we have support to do that.
So every time you get a school, you're like, oh, I got to go out and raise more money.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a good problem to have, but and especially as it grows, we have so many schools here in Kansas City. I still feel like we're a very homegrown Heart of America charity. But we also have these schools out far away where, how do I fundraise for Virginia, and Florida? And so, so that's
would the schools work with you? Like, here's a list of potential donors. Do they do that kind of thing?
It's tough. There may be some ways where we're able to partner or kind of build awareness together, but the school is also fundraising. And so we have to be, careful about not kind of stepping on their toes, kind of getting into their territory, not to sound like it's not a competition, but there are donors who will give to the school for this fund, and then there are donors who will give to us for the fund, and then we come together. And so it's kind of it, and that's why our partners is in our name. We are figuring out how to really partner to bring those two together, and just build awareness for this particular need they can meet.
Texas A&M's got to be one of them, right?
They are, of course. Okay. That was maybe my number one goal when I came on board. And for one, Texas has the highest need of any state. They have the most Chapter 35 students.
Is that right?
By a lot.
Wow.
Florida's number 2, and then California. And so those 3 states were kind of in my sights. We need to expand.
Yeah.
And then obviously being an Aggie, Texas A&M had to be. They were actually the second, though. We partnered with UTSA in San Antonio, and then Texas A&M, and now we're working on adding more. More for sure.
I figured that was the case.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to go after them. So
that's right.
Say we, like I'm part of it now. So, so goals for the future is just really expanding. I mean, is that?
Yeah.
Like, what's your big audacious goal?
Oh my gosh. I mean, expand, but to do so carefully. I don't want to grow just to grow.
You can grow too fast.
You can. And, I've seen what that does. And so, we're being very mindful about expanding slowly. Number one, because we signed 5-year agreements with the schools. They're not legally binding, but we want to know that when we partner with you, we're going to show up for the next 5 years, and then we'll have a discussion if you want to continue.
Yeah.
And no schools have backed out so far. So, we've only had schools come back and say, we actually want to do more. Can you match more? Because they're seeing the need grow.
You need about 3 or 4 of you.
So that is the big audacious goal. We need some staff. I have 2 amazing part-time staff members. Allison handles admin and events, and Emma, also a Gold Star daughter. She's just came on board to help with program communicating with the schools and the partnerships, because that's a big deal to us. We want to always be a partner. So I don't want to have a school on my list where I don't know somebody there that I can call and say, how's it going? What else do you need? What is this working? And so one thing I love is getting all of our school partners together. We have to do that virtually now, but we'll have 50 people on a Zoom call from colleges across the country, and then they'll share kind of best practices and how they're managing, because we really put the burden of administration on the school as well, and that keeps our costs low.
Yeah.
Because we put this in their hands to find the student, to have them fill out an application, to award the money. That's a huge part of this process that is not on our plate. And so we are trusting the school, entirely. And so by maintaining communication and then getting them together, we've really seen how the program has evolved on some campuses, how they're making it a prestigious thing to become a Valor Scholar, And it's just really
That's cool.
neat, the community we've built.
That's really cool.
It is. Yeah.
Like maybe you should have like a Valor Scholar graduation ceremony or something.
We have ideas. I have ideas out there. I mean, again, that's my problem. I'm the visionary. I have all the ideas, and I know what I want this to look like.
Yeah.
And now I need about 20 people with me to help me do it.
Sounds like it's coming.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a school wouldn't want to be involved in something like this.
I haven't had one say no yet.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I would love to just go out and talk to them all and get them all signed up. And I think they would. But that we need the funding to go out and do it. And so, it's this constant challenge, and the schools are seeking us out now because they've heard about it. And so now
That's
it means
awesome.
I have to say, yes, 100%, we want to partner with you, but I got to put you on my waiting list, and then we have to choose, well, who can be next. And so, it would just be amazing if that was not the problem,
Well, I want to go ahead and wrap up here, but tell us how people can get involved. How do they reach out to you if they wanted to give?
Yeah.
You want to tell somebody about?
Yeah. Well, to give, it's easy. Go on our website, valorpartners.org. And we're running some neat, we have a monthly donor. You can join and give
a monthly
recurring every month, and we'll send you a pin. And then we're running a campaign right now for Memorial Day, for Military Appreciation Month is May. And we have an event at the end of June. And so right now, if you go online and give $50, you can name your hero, or you can give 100 and name 2 or whatever. But for every 50, you can honor a hero. We'll put their name on a ribbon on a flag that will be on display at that event in June. And it's currently serving veterans, fallen, anyone that you want to honor. And then, we have obviously volunteer needs. We have needs for pro bono services, and marketing and all those things.
Yeah.
But really the best thing is just, social media is such a big, just a great way to get the word out these days, and share stories. And so the more stories we put out there, the more people share those.
Are you doing
really
much
helps.
on social media right now?
We have really tried the last year. We went through the whole rebrand and new website. And so we, post consistently, and we've really been working hard at working with our school partners to gather those stories. And to do that carefully. I mean, because I know how that is as a family who has, been...
You've probably been asked a lot to talk about your story.
Yeah. So I want to be sensitive to people that don't want to do that, and that's okay. It's hard, or it's just not everyone needs to share that publicly. And so I would never want to expect that of our recipients. But many are like me, and they want that chance to say thank you. And so I want to give them that opportunity. And so it's just a kind of a balancing act of giving our students the opportunity to share, or the opportunity to say thank you and walk away, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But so we have a lot that are willing to share, and we're really working on ways to get their stories out. And again, our partners are great. Johnson County Community College just recorded a couple of students sharing their stories. And
great.
We've got at least one online right now. And so you can go to our website or our social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and see some of those. And hopefully you'll see it just getting better and better in this coming year. So
people need to go out and share that content.
Share it
talk
about it. And there's a real lack of awareness for the disparity in the GI Bill for these families. And I think there's a misunderstanding out there that, if you're a military affiliated student, there's so much for you. Just go apply and you'll get all the scholarships you need. And that's not the case for these families. We are helping the most underserved of the military families pursuing higher education.
I feel like now would be a good time to really go after policy on some of that stuff.
And And so, obviously we are not a policy or lobbying organization, but I know that there's things on the table. They are trying to push for some changes to Chapter 35 to increase it, because this is a known problem.
Yeah.
This is a benefit that hasn't been improved since Vietnam.
Wow.
Except for small cost of living increases, and so it's just it's out there. So yes, pushing for that change, and I know that the stories we're gathering will help speak to that need, and I know that will help those that are out lobbying and changing policies. They'll be able to see that and know, okay, this really is important.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So the last thing I always ask I don't know if you saw Brian do this, but I always have people do the movie voice at the end of our podcast.
No. The inner world.
Right. So you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but I think it'd be fun. But the key is you have to get really close to the mic and say "inner world" like that.
And then
you could have a voiceover career after this.
I could, yeah.
So you could give it a try.
Okay, I just have to say inner world.
Inner world with real media.
Oh, you do it so well. Okay. All right, here I go. Inner world.
Perfect.
That's fine. There
we'll
you
call
go.
it good.
There's my inner world.
Well, thank you. This has been awesome. It's really been fun. I really have enjoyed talking with you. And
same.
like the small world.
I can't believe the connections that I know your wife and we've met your kids. And, it's amazing.
Yeah, she's going to be surprised. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you everybody for listening in. This is the In a World with Real Media podcast. I didn't really do the movie voice on that one, but thank you for joining us, and share this content, share the website. We'll have that in the description. Like, tell people about what's happening with Valor Partners, and we want to get the word out and get people really engaged in helping you guys get those big goals hit, right?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. This has been In a World with Real Media. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to subscribe on iTunes and follow Real Media on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn so you never miss an episode.